Have you ever had a costly mistake at work? And have you wished you could go back and fix it or prevent it from happening in the future? Hi, I'm Ken Okel. In this session, we're going to be talking about mistakes and misunderstandings at work, the high price they carry, and how you can prevent them in your organization. First, I want to introduce the problem. Let's go to a survey that was taken a few years ago about the cost of these mistakes, these misunderstandings. Two areas of the world were looked at, the United States and the United Kingdom. And the cost of all those mistakes was estimated. Go to the Q&A box. I want you to put down either A, B, or C for which answer you think it is. I'll go through those answers right now. A is $370 million. B is $3.7 billion. Now that's a lot. And C is $37 billion. Go to the Q&A box, put the letter in that you think is correct for the cost of misunderstandings and mistakes, United States and the United Kingdom. Okay, I see some of those coming in. For those of you who guessed C, you are correct. $37 billion. Now that's a lot of money. Think down to your organization. Scale it down. Now, you're not making a $37 billion mistake, but you might be making a few mistakes that could add up. That could be the difference between buying a piece of equipment or not, or hiring on some other staff. So if we can improve our performance on the job, especially now when so many of us are working virtually, if we can reduce those mistakes, we're going to increase the amount of money we have to spend on new training, new equipment, or perhaps even new personnel. So what are some ways that you can do it? First one I want to talk to you about, listening. How many of us think we're good listeners, but we've never really practiced the skill? We've never learned much about it. It's not taught in school. As a result, we may not be the best of listeners. Let's face it, I can be as guilty as the next person as waiting for someone to stop talking before I say what I think is brilliant. That can be a mistake because sometimes you're missing something. So can you be present with the person you're communicating with? Really focused on them, one-on-one, as if what they are saying is the most important thing in the world. Try to block out any other distractions, your devices, other stuff. Really focus on that other person. It will help you in two ways. One, it will cut down on some of those mistakes and misunderstandings because you're going to know what you want and you're going to know what you need to do. Also, it shows respect. No matter what we are saying, I think we always believe that what we are saying has merit and has value. So if you are listening to someone, if you are showing them the courtesy of paying attention to them, that will raise your professional height in that person's eyes. Give it a shot. I want to also talk to you about something I'll call the communication curve, where we receive some information, but we may interpret it based on our own experiences. To illustrate this point, we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back to when I'm about 16 years old. I live in the Columbus, Ohio area. I'm a relatively new driver. It's a warm summer day. I'm driving down a curvy hill, 35 miles per hour, have my windows down. Two-lane road. I'm going down the hill, curving around, coming up the hill is another car. Just as that car is passing me, an older gentleman sticks his head out the window and yells at me. And he goes, "Slow down!" Immediately, I take that information in and I interpret it. And I'm a little angry. I'm a little frustrated. I mean, who does this guy think he is telling me how to drive? Why is he lecturing me on speeding? I wasn't even going that fast. And most of all, I was thinking, why are older people so mean to young people? All these things are going through my mind. But a few seconds later, I continue down that hill. I'm continuing to curve down that hill. And suddenly I'm on a straightaway. And off in the distance, I see a police officer with his radar gun pointed right at my car. Fortunately, I was not speeding. But in that moment, I have to tell you, I felt a little bit embarrassed because I thought that the older gentleman was lecturing me when he was actually giving me a warning about a speed trap. I never had a chance to thank the gentleman, never saw him again. But in my mind, though, I thought about it. And I realized when someone is giving me information, I need to think about it, consider it from different perspectives, get clarification if I need to, because sometimes I may bring some baggage with me, some preconceptions that may interfere with my understanding of instructions or other information. So really try to consider information. Don't just make a quick judgment, because sometimes those quick judgments are wrong. We may also be missing some information in terms of what we know, especially if you're in a leadership role. You may be used to answering questions all day. You get in the habit of always having to have the answer. Sometimes, though, you may be missing information and you're not the person who should be giving the answer. Let me go back to another instance. This one involved me going to a speaking presentation. It was local, so I didn't have to get on an airplane. I was just able to drive on over. So I wake up that morning, shower, I'm dressed up real nice. Again, warm summer day, walking out to my car. I noticed something right away. I have a flat tire. My right rear tire, it's flat. I must have rolled over a screw or a nail the day before, and overnight the tire has deflated. Car's not going anywhere. I can change the tire, but I'm all dressed up and I'm going to get really hot and sweaty. So that's not the best thing. I'm about to call for an Uber or a Lyft when I realize, hey, you have AAA coverage. Part of that coverage includes a service where they will send someone over and that person will change the tire for you. And I'm like, this is perfect. I call over to them. They say, yep, we'll get someone out in about 10 minutes. Perfect. Then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, what can I do to speed up this process? And I see the spare tire that's in my trunk. And I think, well, I can really carefully remove that tire and put it by the side of the car. That way I'll save the tow truck guy a few seconds, get me on the road that much faster. So I do that. And in that process, I also see the car jack. Now, maybe you have a car jack like this in your car, but basically I want you to imagine 3 pieces of metal that barely go together. It's kind of like the Da Vinci Code of engineering. You got to get it just right. I don't know how to put it all together, but I just put it by the side of the car. A minute later, the tow truck arrives. And I got to tell you, as a kid, I liked playing with trucks and stuff. And this would have been a truck I would have loved to have played with. And this big guy gets out of the tow truck. He says, hey, sir, how you doing? I'll fix your car in no time. I'm like, great. Just want to let you know, I put the spare tire right there by the side. He's like, oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And then I'm like, and I put the jack right by there too. And he looks down. He looks up at me. He looks down again, looks up at me, and he kind of forces a smile. And he goes, oh, that's okay, sir. I brought my own jack. He then reaches back into that truck. He pulls out this big jack. He puts it on the ground. He pumps it with a handle about 3 times. My car's up in the air. I have to admit, it was at that moment that I realized that I did not know jack about jacks. Because in my mind, I thought they were all the same. It turns out there was a major difference between the 3 pieces of metal that I had and the professional grade equipment that he had. This illustrates the point that we all have blind spots in our knowledge. There are always things that we just don't know. And that's okay. You can't be an expert on everything. So if someone asks you a question and you're not sure about it, it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's investigate this more. Let's find out from an expert. There's nothing wrong with that. That is actually a smart move. And doing that can prevent some of the mistakes and the misunderstandings that can happen. If you enjoyed this presentation, I want you to go and put in a takeaway in the Q&A box. Write down something that was a good takeaway, or if you have additional questions. I want to make sure that we are having a conversation and it's just not one-way communication. So was there one takeaway from today that you can go back to the office with and use right away? As you're doing it, I want to remind you that I'm very easy to connect with. My name is Ken Okel. My website is my name, KENOKEL.com. If you want to email me, go to tvguy@kenokel.com. And in terms of social media, I always encourage people to follow me on LinkedIn. That is also under my name, which is Ken Okel.